Jeff, I want to get into some specifics about the book that won't give any secrets away, but I was hoping that you can kind of elaborate on some of these questions that I have for you. Would you be willing to, to do that? Yeah. Great. Thank you. Is Discovery Island and the history you give about it real?
It is. And Discovery Island is an amazing place and was one of the first places that Walt saw when he chose Orlando or Central Florida as a site for Walt Disney World. And so the history that's there really is, it's all real, and there's even more that I didn't have room to include in the story.
So are the things you mentioned in the book really there on Discovery Island?
Yeah, Discovery Island is an off-limits place on Disney property. You're just not allowed to go there. But some people, of course, have. And so I had to do a lot of research and had to contact folks that had done something that they really weren't supposed to do to kind of connect the dots, to kind of get this picture of what the island is, because it's not only off limits, but when Disney shut it down, when the company shut it down, they shut it down, but they left all the power on. It's just like they walked away from it. And so it's really something almost out of a horror movie. But if you're on the island, there's still power, the buildings are still there. It's just all overgrown because it's been left untouched now for years and years and years. And you can take a boat around it and look at it, and there's some pretty interesting things to see from a distance, but nobody gets to go on the island. And so I had to talk to people that had actually been there and knew what was there.
Interesting. You also talk about a press conference that Walt and Roy Disney gave in Orlando. There is a specific moment in that press conference that you actually write about. Is that real? Is it fact? Is it fiction?
It's real. And what happens is that's a very famous press conference. There's been pictures of it that have been seen all over the world. They're part of Florida's historical archives. Because it's when Walt and Roy announced, along with the governor, that Walt Disney World was coming to Florida. So it was a big deal. If you go and you watch clips of it, there are clips. The Disney company shows clips of it in some of their promotional things. And if you go out on YouTube, you can find clips of different things. But there are a few of the full press conference, not images, but really the footage of that press conference. And you got to remember, this was done in the 60s. And so what happens at the end of the press conference is that there was a camera that they just left on, and the microphones were still open. And so usually when everyone is shown the press conference pieces that they want, everyone's asked the questions, and they say goodbye, the press conference ends. But one camera kept running. And what that one camera caught was something that was very unusual and very unique. And the first time I saw it, I thought, you gotta be kidding, what's that all about? What is Walt doing up there? And then when the governor comes back, because they're actually waiting on Walt, because Walt's now become distracted by something, I thought to myself, that's something that no one gets to see, but he does it in front of all of these people. And yet, it's kind of gotten lost in history. And so I was able to grab that moment and actually get that moment on film and get a copy of it for myself. And so I took that and I kind of just wove that into the story. So it really did happen. It's really there.
Great. And then what about the Carolwood Pacific train? It belonged to Walt, right?
Yeah.
And is that something that you can actually see at Walt Disney World?
You can, and it's probably one of the best kept secrets of Walt Disney World. Walt was famous for loving trains and making a model train that you could ride in your yard. I mean, he had this half-mile track in his yard, and he had tunnels in the barn that he would work on his train. That was his hobby. He had celebrity friends come over. They'd all get on this miniature train. And in Holmy Hills, where he lived in California, that was that was one of the attractions and the features in his backyard. Part of that train is on display at the Walt Disney Family Museum. There are some pieces at other places, but then some of the pieces are at Walt Disney World. But no one knows where they're at. Yet if you know the right place to look, and it's over at the Wilderness Lodge, there's a room there that's dedicated to that. And if you ever want just a moment of privacy and you want to kind of reconnect with the history of Walt, you can go into what they used to call the Iron Spike Room. And on display as part of that train, there are pictures from his home in California. There's pictures of Walt with trains. There's a huge fireplace, overstuffed chairs. It's quiet, and nobody ever goes there. It's one of those places that it's off the beaten path. It's almost like a history museum, and people are so busy doing vacation that they never see it. And so it is real, but it's also some place that I wove into the book because it's one of my favorite places to go out there.